Hey guys, I'm Mozo the Best, and today I will talk about my favorite voice actor of all time. I decided to do this because in Ages of Animation number 2, I talked about all of the characters in Looney Tunes, but I neglected to talk about the voice behind them. However, I will correct this problem by talking about him, giving a little biography of him, and talking about the voices he played. You probably heard his name before. That man is Mel Blanc. Melvin Jerome Blanc was born on May 30th, 1908 in San Francisco, California. He was an American voice actor, radio personality, and comedian. He earned the nickname the Man of a Thousand Voices by becoming one of the most influential people in the voice acting industry. In his career, he did over 400 voices for over 5,000 cartoons. Blanc started his radio career in 1927. He was a voice actor on the KGW program The Hoot Owls. He moved to Los Angeles in 1932. This is where he met his soon-to-be wife, Estelle Rosenbaum. They got married in 1933. In December of 1936, he joined Leon Schlesinger Productions, which produced theatrical cartoon shorts for the Warner Brothers. The directors at Warner Brothers loved Blanc's voices, and the first cartoon he voiced for them was 1937's Picador Porky, where he played the voice of a drunken bull.
La cucaracha, la cucaracha, play it on the old guitar. La cucaracha, play it, please, sure.
Then he got his first starring role when he was the replacement of Joe Doherty as Porky Pig in Porky's Duck Hunt, where he also voiced Daffy Duck in his debut. The rest is history.
Hey, that wasn't in the script. Don't let it worry you, Skipper. I'm just a crazy, darn fool duck.
Mel Blanc was very good at creating voices. All they had to do was show him the character, give him the personality, and he'd come up with the voice for it.
They show me a picture of the character, and then they say, they show me a storyboard which shows what the character is going to do in the cartoon. From this, I have to create the voice. Like Bugs, they said, was a tough little stinker. So I thought, which is the toughest voice in this country, the Brooklyn or the Bronx?
So you put the two of them together. That's how I got the voice for Bugs, Doc.
One good thing to note about Blanc is the fact that he didn't do impressions. The voices he did were always original. There was one exception to this, that I will talk about later. Mel Blanc voiced Bugs Bunny, the Roadrunner, Tweety Bird, Foghorn Leghorn, Wile E. Coyote, Sylvester, Yosemite Sam, the Tasmanian Devil, Marvin the Martian, Speedy Gonzales, Pepe Le Pew. To put it simply, he was pretty much the voice of every male Looney Tunes character since 1937. He didn't even stop there. Penelope Cat, the one that Pepe Le Pew is always chasing, is voiced by Mel Blanc. But considering the fact that she only makes cat sounds, that isn't too impressive compared to the other things Blanc did. And just in case you're curious, the females on Looney Tunes were mostly done by June Foray. Also, if you haven't noticed, I didn't mention Elmer Fudd. That is because Elmer's original voice actor was a man named Arthur Q. Bryan. He voiced Elmer from 1940 to 1959. He sadly died on November 18th, 1959. Other voice actors played Elmer, but they couldn't replace Bryan. Elmer's character was then retired because of that. The exception I was talking about earlier was when Blanc ended up voicing Elmer regularly in the 70s and 80s. He even admitted himself that it was hard to get the voice right, so he never really made it his own. He did voices for TV cartoons, and I will say right now that even though I don't like the dark age of animation, I will say that the stuff that came out in the 60s were not that bad in terms of cartoons. Anyway, he voiced Barney Rubble in the Flintstones, Cosmos Spacely in the Jetsons, Secret Squirrel, and others. On January 24th, 1961, something terrible happened. He was driving to a studio alone to work on a commercial. This was when a car driven by an 18-year-old college student collided head-on with Blanc's sports car on Sunset Boulevard. The student had minor injuries, but the injuries for Blanc were near fatal. He was rushed to the UCLA Medical Center with a triple skull fracture and fractures to both legs and the pelvis. He was in a coma for the next 2 weeks. When Blanc wasn't waking up, one of his neurologists tried another way. He asked Blanc, "How are you feeling today, Bugs Bunny?" And Blanc later replied in a weak voice, "Just fine, Doc. How are you?" Then he asked if Tweety was there, and Blank replied, "I thought I saw a pretty tat." Blank returned home on March 17th. Even after the accident that very well could have killed him, he still continued his career. Through the 80s, he appeared in commercials for American Express.
Well, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
He voiced Tweaky and Buck Rogers in the 21st Century, and he continued to voice characters in commercials and TV specials. His last recording session was for Jetsons the Movie, released in 1990. In 1989, Blank was checked into the hospital. He was expected to recover, but his health got worse. He died on July 10th, 1989, at the age of 81. Although he has passed on, the fact remains that his voice will live on. It is very likely that you have heard his voice before, even though you didn't know it. You usually don't think that much of the voiceover artist, but Mel Blanc changed that way of thinking. He was such an important part of Looney Tunes that it was part of his contract to be credited at the beginning of all the cartoons he's in. Blanc took part in creating the characters. He may not have drawn them, but all they needed to do was give him the character's personality, and he gave them a voice that matched. There will never be someone like Mel Blanc. There will never be a replacement. He is definitely the greatest voice actor who has ever lived. Peace, guys. I'm Moses the Best, and I will now show you the many voices of Mel Blanc, the man of 1,000 voices.
Clink, clink, no more to drink. I had a cellar full, but now it's gone. Clink, clink, the glasses clink. Like the anvil chorus, and my head is splitty, freaky, busty. Oh, brother.
What's up, Doc?
You're despicable. I thought I saw a putty cat. I did saw a putty cat.
Just the mouse. I'm a cat. Cats beat mice. Something's wrong. Yappity, yappity, yap. I can't get a word in edgeways. Talk, talk, talk. But no wonder you're not sharp. You gotta always listen. Shut up!
And so, mon chéri, we can do away with the dull preliminaries.
By George, Wiley, you've done it this time. You genius, you.
You crazy idiot bedraggled dragon! I warned you about letting your fire get low. Now you're caught cold.
Wild turkey surprise? Too bad I'm all tied up or I'd cook you up a batch.
Ooh, wild turkey surprise.
Yes. Very curious. Very interesting. I do so enjoy observing the flora and fauna of that tiny planet.
Aye, Chihuahua, he was a smart mouse.
Another one? What do I need 3 of them for?
You got it, Mr. Big Bite. This is the next big thing in the fast-track Google world of high finance.
I knew it all the time, Chief. You see, I was disguised as you.
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks.